So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to phase 2 of Agency Navigator. Now, for this phase, I'm not going to do any sort of punchy intro. I'm not going to try to get you hyped up because, quite frankly, I feel as though it would almost be doing a disservice because there's no need to get hyped for this phase, right? This phase is so transformative, so powerful, that really nothing else needs to be said. And on that note, let's get into it. This module is called Preparing the Vessel. Now, in today's teaching, we're going to go over the 2 different success camps in life, how to merge philosophies and prosper, what I personally learned from 3,000 students, preparing the vessel, monk mode, warrior mode, and wizard mode, and lastly, what the different seasons of life are and when to submit to them. So let's get into it. The clash of self-help philosophies. Now, in one camp, we have the hustle culture troops. These people, with them, it's all visceral. It's all tactile. If you're not getting the results that you want, it's because you're not working enough. These are the type of people that got, they got a Gary Vee podcast playing.
Literally want to die instead of fail. Die.
They're doing some lead sourcing and they're working on a treadmill desk at the same time. Actually, in all fairness, I really want to try a treadmill desk. So no disservice to people who use treadmill desks. But my point is, for them, it's all go, 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 right? As I said, if you're not getting the results, or at least in their philosophy and their worldview, if you're not getting the results that you want, it's your fault. You're not working hard enough. You're doing 8 hours of work, do 12. You're doing 12, do 16.
I'm going to make Monday morning my bitch.
Right? For them, as I said, everything is so, it's so material, right? It's so visceral. These people scoff at the spiritual people, people promoting things like well-being, because quite frankly, you can just sleep when you're dead, or at least that's what they seem to think. And they don't believe that money doesn't actually make you happy, because obviously you would rather cry in a Lambo than a Prius, right? I'm just going to touch on that real quick because I think this is so important going into the next few phases, because quite frankly, if you do everything outlined, you're going to be very wealthy, right? You're going to be very wealthy to the point where, and it's funny, especially when it comes to cars, like most people don't realize, you really don't need to make, if you're making 25, 30 grand a month, cool. You can buy yourself a Porsche 911 on finance, which by the way, like for the most part, there's nothing wrong with finance. If you can deploy that cash elsewhere and get a better return. But most of the time, if you want to get like a Porsche 911, you can put 20%, 30% down payment and then you're paying $1,500 a month. Like if you're making 25, 30 grand a month, for the most part, you're going to be able to afford, most of these nice cars and stuff like that. So I think it's so important for me to touch on this because, look, it's not everyone, right? But we've had people come into a program literally starting at 0 and then scale all the way up to 100K a month, right? We've had people start in the old program, the old iteration of the program, Agency Incubator, scale all the way up to 20, 30K, come into CPA, get up to 100K, right? And once you get past like 30, 40K a month, and that's profit with your business, that's pre-tax, but still, you got a lot of money right there, right? And you got a lot of options. So the other thing that I think is going to be so important is priming you for what's about to come. Right. So if anyone ever says, and you see these stupid quotes on Instagram, oh, I'd rather cry in a Lambo than a Prius, right? They say money doesn't make you happy, but I'd rather cry in a Lambo than a Prius. That's actually the opposite of what's true. Because at least when you're crying in a Prius, you think you're crying because you're in a Prius, right? Whereas if you're crying in a Lambo, if you have gone through the hell, the torture to build up a successful business, right? And to get to a point where you can afford something like Lambo, which actually, really doesn't cost that much when you break it down. But you get my point. If you've gone through that treacherous journey and you're still unhappy, then there is no one to look at. There is nothing external to look at except for yourself. So the saddest moment on earth is if you are the person who's crying in a Lambo. And I know for someone who's, sitting at home and you have no clients and this is really just the start of the journey for you, you're like, dude, if I had a Lambo, that's it. Like I'm done. I'm happy every single day of my life. And really it's not that case, right? But as I say with everything, you need to go through a paradigm to understand. I've been saying this for years, right? I knew money wouldn't make me happy, but I still had to go through that paradigm to understand it. And even after you go through that paradigm, it still fools you a few times. You learn your lessons and then you move on from there. So that's really just a little caveat before we get into the main thing. So in this hustle culture camp, the other main sort of theme is the fact that everything is heavy, dense, as I mentioned. And a lot of times these people can't turn off the chatter in their head, right? So they might be focusing on one thing, but there's a billion things zipping through their head. And I look at these people and I just wonder, you quite clearly can see there's people getting much better results than you spending a less time. And you really have to stop and you have to ask yourself why. So I look at that camp, and yeah, they really they dumbfound me sometimes. But on the flip side, let's move on to the next camp. And in the other camp, we have the manifestation martyrs, right? And these people think that everything will just come to them, right? You can just manifest anything, right? And rather than actually doing the work, they would rather spend extra time, manifesting, aligning with their chakras. And by the way, guys, I'm poking fun at both of these sides, but I have both of these sides in me, right? And really, it's the fusion of both of these sides that makes you a world-class entrepreneur. And really, if you wonder, if you look at someone and you're like, how did you get those results so quick? That's it. Right. And I've had a lot of people ask me as well, or wonder, how the hell did I get results so quick? Right. How did I scale my agency up so quick? Well, I guess in all fairness, to me, it was quick at that time. I signed my first client August of 2016, as many of you guys know. And, it wasn't 7 to 8 months later that I got my second client. And once I got my second, third, fourth, it kind of steamrolled very quickly. And from the point of getting my second client, a company called Athlete, or at least at the time they were called Athlete, from there, it took me 45 days, 60 days to go from basically that client to making 10, 15K a month, right? And then that was 2017. And then by the time that 2018 rolled around, I hit my first $100,000 a month, right? So it would have been like 18 months later, profit with the agency, right? So, for me, that was very quick. I said, I know there's some people in Great Agency who have actually beat that in terms of like from their first client to getting to 100K a month. That's just the way it goes. But I have a lot of people asking me, like, how do you manage to get those results so quick? So there's two things. There's tactics, and then there's internal work, right? There's internal work. There's your work ethic, your limiting beliefs, et cetera, et cetera. I would say we're the world of the outer and the world of the inner, right? The issue is my world of the outer wasn't really that great, right? You guys need to understand everything. Like, I've been through the ringer. It's been 5 years I've had my agency now. And I've been through the ringer. I've been through it all, right? And you can watch back on my YouTube video. And in fact, I'll probably leave in the video library down below. So you can just click on it and go straight to the video library in the portal. I'll leave a video where I go over proposals that I sent in 2016, right? So you can see literally when I was 16 years old, the proposals I was sending to clients to try to sign them up. And, you can see for the longest time, I did everything wrong. It took me just over 2 years to move to Stripe, rather than taking Bankwire with clients. So, it took me a long time on the tactics front. I didn't have a resource like this, right? The thing is, you guys have the cheat code in terms of tactics. So you guys have the tactics sorted, right? The thing is, for me, I had the inner work sorted, because from the age of 14 to 16, right? So for 2 years, and up until the point I signed my first client, right? Which I kind of just stumbled on. As I said, for me, the first basically 4 or 5 clients that I signed, I didn't, in my mind, I wasn't an agency. I was just a service provider, right? The reason that my agency name is IAG Media, which I hate, I've been meaning to rebrand for a long time, because it makes no sense right now. We don't even do any media, right? We're just an advertising agency, or at least outward facing an advertising agency. Inward facing, we fill sort of a lot of other holes for clients.
What did you say?
When I first started, I was just offering a service in return for a fee. That's really all it was back then. But the thing that I had going for me was, from the age of 14 to 16, I read a book a week. I was meditating, right? The same way that people have gym splits, I actually had like a meditation split. So one day I might do Vipassana. One day I might do Vipassana. The other day I might do Kundalini. And throughout the week I would have different forms of meditation. So I was like a wizard, right?
You're a wizard.
Simon Gadsey.
And I had done a lot of internal work. I'd done the journaling. I'd done the reading. And I built up my winner effect for 2 years up until the point I started an agency. So when I started an agency, the advantage that I had over you, for example, or potentially, is like I looked at myself in the mirror, and although nothing in my world was a reflection of that, like I actually had a pretty decent track record of not winning. I wasn't a bright kid in school. At some point I really wanted to become a professional footballer. I just wasn't good enough. And by football, I mean, soccer for some people. And I just quite clearly was not good enough. Once I got to a professional level, which I managed to work my way up, playing for a professional football team, having a sort of extended 3-month trial there, a club called Fulham, if any of you guys know it. I actually had a trial there, and it was so clear that I was not good enough, right? So they dropped me, and I was 15 years old at the time. So my point is, like, it's not like I had a great track record of winning, but I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw a winner, right? And it was about that winner effect that we're going to talk about later on in phase 2, because it's so important. But like I said, that was my competitive advantage. Your competitive advantage is you have the tactics. You have the 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears that I had to go through and lessons that I had to learn. And in fact, things that when I was a beginner, I looked at and I was like, oh, when I'm advanced, I'm going to implement this because they sound nice. And then when I implemented them when I was advanced, I was like, oh, wow, this actually doesn't work. Maybe I should go back to, the way that I was doing it before. And you guys, as I said, in terms of tactics, you guys could not get better tactics, right? And could not get more up-to-date tactics, because not only because, the way that we have things set up now, not only with a course, but with the way the plug and plays are set up, the way the Q&As are set up, the way the community is set up. Guys, this is about as comprehensive an education. Like this is, I personally have not seen an education company on earth that fuses software, platform, community, and course in the way that we have, right? So you guys are getting the most up-to-date education, the most up-to-date tactics, right? Your competitive advantage is that. My competitive advantage when I first started was the internal work. And this is really what we're going to go over in phase 2. And this is why this stuff is so important, okay? So remember, you and I, we start off with the same sort of advantage, except my advantage was in the world of the inner, your advantage was in the world of the outer, okay? So just remember that. So really getting back onto my point before I went on a tangent, which I'm going to go, which I will continue to go on many, many tangents during Agency Navigator. But, these manifestation martyrs, right? These people, they just want to live in a positive state 24/7, right? And, they think money is just a social construct. And I think, really, if you're in this program, you probably don't fall under that camp. But for you, things you might even say in your mind is like, oh, I don't really need that much money to be happy. It's like, yeah, sure, but why don't you make a lot of money and then figure that out and maybe, scale back your life, or, a myriad of different options. Or, maybe you get to the point where you realize, hey, 5K a month is all I need to be happy, but you scale your business to 15, well, that extra 10K you can put into investments, right? And you build up that portfolio to the point where you could just retire, right? You could retire in 5-10 years. So anyways, my point is there's these manifestation martyrs. And for them, everything, if they sit at their desk and they're just like, it just doesn't feel congruent, or I don't feel aligned today, maybe I'll save this to tomorrow, right? And as I said, with both the hustle culture group and the manifestation martyrs, I'm really pushing the extremes. And I know if you're in this program, you're probably not the extreme end of either of these, but you may be leaning to more towards one. And I really just want to show you the juxtaposition of both of them and how both of them really are, just so you can understand the lunacy behind both of them, really. Now, between these two camps, really most lean towards this visceral, dense, I've got to get to my desk, get it done. They lean towards this sort of camp, right? But there are also some lunatics that think they can just manifest everything, right? And the answer is usually somewhere in between. Now, in this space, it's somewhere in between. If this is the middle, right? If you've got your sort of a world of the inner and then world of the outer, right? In Jungian psychology, right? And you've got dead center here. It's a little bit more leaning towards the world external, because I've seen people with some really horrible internal beliefs, really sloppy. They just haven't worked on themselves in the way that they need to, but still crush it with the results, right? Because the tactics and the work was there, right? But the results that they did get, they probably could have gotten 2 or 3 times the results if they'd done more work in the world of the inner. Or conversely, someone who had done maybe half the amount of work as them could have gotten the same results because they'd done more work on the inner, in the world of the inner. So ladies and gents, let's get into the next part of this module, merging your inputs. Now, in this phase, I'm going to throw you a crazy amount of concepts from all walks of life, because ladies and gents, I have tried it all, honestly. I've tried every single desk setup. I've tried every single morning routine. I've tried every single, style of training in the gym. I've tried every single form of meditation. I've read the Quran. I've read the Bible. I've read the Kabbalion. I have tried every single thing I can do in terms of biohacking, optimization, deep inner work, detoxing, like you name it, I've done it. I've tried every single law of attraction technique, even delving very, very deep into quantum physics. I've tried every single psychedelic, even as far as, some more like, some not as popular ones, things like something called Kambo, which actually isn't a psychedelic, but that's literally where you burn frog poison into your skin and then you purge. Like, guys, I really have tried it all, right? And the reason I've tried it all is because I want to relay, well, naturally, I'm a Capricorn, and I'm like, I don't like dogma, and I just want to try everything. But on the flip side, I would like to do all this stuff so I can relay it back to you. And I've tried all of this stuff so I can distill it and give it to you in this phase, and also give it to you in this phase, understanding sort of most likely what part of your agency you're in. You know, we've got some people in Agency Navigator that aren't in CPA that are doing 20, 30, 40K with their agency, but I know the main demographic is people who are starting all the way up to sort of around 15, 20K. You know, I know the main sort of demographic is people who are from 0 to 10, usually around 10, 15K a month with their agency. Anything past that, you know, most of the time people are already in CPA by that point. So that's why, you know, from the $150,000 I've spent on biohacking, just equipment and tech, you know, stuff that's approved for medical grade use, but that isn't actually even available commercially, and I've been able to get my hands on just through some of my connections. I'm not going to recommend a $6,000 sleeping mat to you, right?
Damn, what is that, bro?
At your stage of the journey. You know, this is some of this crazy stuff that's just, so this is crazy sort of stuff that I've done, I've tried, and I've found actually great benefit from. You know, that sort of stuff we talk about in CPA, but in here, I'm going to take everything I've learned, I'm going to distill it down. And the other thing is I'm going to throw a lot of things your way, right, over a sort of breadth of different topics. And whatever you resonate with, you can go down that rabbit hole further, right? You know, if you resonate with quantum physics, if you resonate with detoxing, if you resonate with maybe even just like desk setup stuff, right? Like if you get really excited by having the best desk setup, because, you know, I get complimented on my desk setup. And I think to me, you know, sitting down and loving your, you know, even just loving your office, right? Optimizing your office. Like in my house, the top 2 floors, this is the 3rd floor, and there's actually another floor up there, is like my sort of man cave, right? This is my office space. You know, upstairs I have like my sort of church meditation prayer room. As I said, you know, if that's what interests you and you want to go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff your way. And I'm going to tell you what works and what has been the most sort of cost effective, or what's giving me the best ROI on time as well. And then from there, you can really go down further rabbit holes as you wish. Now, ladies and gents, this will be the most profound phase of the entire course for you. Now, I know it may be hard to fathom for some of you, but to really drill the point home, here's some proof. Now, when we surveyed the Agency Incubator students on the phase they found the most valuable, this was the results. 77% of people found mindset to be the most powerful. Funnily enough, you can see that systems and processes are the second highest voted. Now, I think the real reason that is because those 2 phases are timeless. And furthermore, to really drill home the point again, let me show you why I know that it's the information in this phase that separates the people who make hundreds of thousands a year compared to those who never managed to sign their first client. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, there are some of you that will take this program and you'll never sign a client. And that is the harsh reality of it. And there's some of you, it's so funny because you've invested in yourself and you invest in this program. And, you know, in all fairness, now that we have the platform, I'm going to do a lot. And, you know, now that kind of the world of options opens up to me, I'm going to do a lot more in terms of sort of keeping people accountable, checking in with people if they haven't logged in or they haven't completed the program, and really giving some of those people who need a push, the push they need. But nonetheless, right, it's the same thing when you go to university. You know, not that that's a great example, but look, at the end of the day, with the university, like if you don't go to the lectures, you know, yeah, sure, maybe they might call you at a certain point where your attendance is so low that they can't pass you into the next grade. But if you miss some class and stuff like that, for the most part, they don't really care, right? And it's not really their duty. And unfortunately, there's some of you guys in here that, you know, we can't, the way that things are set up right now, we can't follow up with every single person and, you know, babysit you. Another thing is we shouldn't have to babysit you because, you know, also unlike university, you guys paid your own hard-earned money, not because of any sort of societal pressure, not because of, you know, you want to do it to please your parents or anything. You did this because you want to do it, right? So you should have the motivation to at least finish the program. And unfortunately, for some of you guys, it never even gets to that point. For some of you guys, just buying the program alone in your mind is enough. Oh, you know, I took the leap of faith and I took the step. And it's unfortunate. And, you know, me and my team are, you know, continuing to plow insane lunatic amounts of money into R&D for this platform just to make it even more revolutionary. But really, you should, you know, you should be able to motivate yourself. And you should be able to motivate yourself to stick at it. And the harsh truth is that some people will never go on to sign a client. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, you'll see this it'll be in the video library section. I'll have a student interview part of it in the platform. But one of my absolute favorite student interviews I've done is with a guy called Josh Sparks, I believe. And the reason it's my favorite interview is because it took him 18 months to sign his first client. And it's not like, he watched the program, didn't do anything for 12 months, picked it back. No, he tried day in, day out for 18 months. And the point in which he signed his first client, within 30 days, he was making $7,000, right? And the reason I love that so much is because it really portrays what I know, which is I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, and I'm being very, very honest and blunt with you guys here, that some of you guys will never sign a client, right? And that's because you quit. And, we're going to continue to do more and more on our part to hold you accountable. But at the end of the day, as I said, this isn't school, guys, right? This isn't, I'm not your parent, right? You got into this program because you want to change your life, right? You got into this program because you want to build a business you can look at yourself in the mirror of and be proud, because it's not just a party trick or a gimmick. You go into this business because you want to look at yourself and you want to be proud. The fact that you've actually built something. You want to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud because, you don't really need to, sweat over the bill or sweat over, can I afford to get starters when I take my mom to dinner, when I take my boyfriend, my girlfriend to dinner, whatever it may be. So I'm not here to babysit you. But the thing that makes me so happy to see, and I can tell you this from the bottom of my heart, is I've never seen anyone who's actually consistently stuck at this for 2 years and isn't making $10,000 a month profit. Never. Right? And this is coming from someone who just told you that his favorite student interview is a person who took 18 months to sign his first client, right? 18 months. And by the way, if you tell anyone, if you tell any sort of veteran entrepreneur, it took me, I hate it so bad. Like, it took me so long, it took me 18 months to get to, or, it took me 2 years to get to $10,000 a month with profit. Most businesses aren't profitable for the first 3 years, right? Like, they would laugh at you that you're upset that it took you 2 years to get to $10,000 a month. And as I said, most of you will get there far sooner if you stick, if you use the tactics and you do the work of the inner inside this program. But that's really what I want to get across here, is just how important this phase is. And I feel as though, I may be blabbering on a little bit too much because, for me, the other 7 phases of this program is the tactics that I never had. I want to give you, that is really the competitive advantage that I never had, that you guys get. But this right here is the competitive advantage that I had, that I really want to get across to you guys, that is so important. Okay. And really, just to make this clear, this is the 3rd iteration of the program in the past 3 years. There's been 3,000 students that have come through a variation of this program, one of the updated versions of it. And we have had many, many, many students go on to make $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month in profit, right? We've had a mind-numbing amount of people come in and make multiple 5 figures a month. We've had countless come in and make 5 figures a month profit. And we've also had people who never even sign a client. And there's a big, big spectrum. And you look at that and you got to ask yourself why. Because these people have the same course. Back then they had the same course, right? They had the same community, the same plug and plays, the same everything. One person is making $1 million a year profit, and another never even signed a client. And they started at the same place, by the way. It's not like this person came in and was making $1 million. And you got to ask yourself why. And it's because one person applied everything you're going to learn in phase 2, another person didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, when you prepare the vessel and when you do the inner work, first of all, you guys, as I said, you guys have all the tactics, right? But even if there's one little missing thing, right? One thing that's very maybe even specific to your service delivery for your niche, right? That one little thing you need to get on point, or even just in terms of your messaging, right? When it comes to your outreach, one little thing you just need to tweak and you need to dial in. Even if the tactic isn't apparent to you, when you prepare the vessel, I'm telling you, the solution shows up in your life. Okay? Remember, prepare the vessel, and it's only once you do that you can allow, you can open the floodgates and you can allow the blessings to come into your life. And down below, you're going to find this printout again. This is one from phase 1. You don't have a business problem. You have a personal problem manifesting in your business. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I can say 90% of the time, this is the case. And ladies and gents, what we're talking about right here, up until a few years ago, you would have looked like a lunatic or crazy. Up until honestly, even 5 years ago, you would have looked crazy for talking about all this stuff. Someone would be like, what the hell does this have to do with business? People would think that you're crazy about talking about a concept like preparing the vessel. Well, let's look at an example of what happens when you don't prepare a vessel, okay? Lottery winners. It's a well-known fact that pretty much all lottery winners within 2 years or 1 year, something like that, they end up going broke. Why is that? Because let's say, let's put it at a ranking, right? Here's the world of here's 0, here's 10, right? Their world of the inner is a 1 out of 10. They haven't really, nurtured the world of the inner. And thus so, the world of the outer is at a 1, right? A lot of times these lottery winners, they don't come, they're very, 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 either they're in horrible financial situations, either they're homeless, or they're living off government benefits, or Social Security, which, by the way, nothing wrong with that. My mom and I used to live off government benefits for a short period of time when things got really bad, and when she got laid off from a minimum wage job in retail. So nothing against that, but it's just to give you an example. And so let's say they're at a 1 in terms of the world of the inner. The world of the outer is at a 1. Now, let's say when they win the lottery, the world of the outer goes up to like an 8, right? They've got tons of money. They can do whatever they want. They can buy whatever they want, etc., etc. That doesn't matter, right? Because the world of the inner is still a 1. So they always regress down. They always find a way to fuck it up. Have you met those people in life? I'm sure you have, where no matter what happens, they find a way to fuck it up. Because that is a reflection of the world of the inner. You could, and by the way, this took me a couple of years to understand. You could present the perfect opportunity, and they would still fuck it up, right? And by the way, I have this inside me, right? I still have this inside me where, and even though I've done so much work, and it may not be pertaining to fucking it up, because for the most part, I feel as though I've worked on myself a lot. I don't really self-sabotage too much, but there's stories and events that I'm replaying still to this day from 10, 15 years ago. Right? And this is also why deep trauma work, right? You guys are like, oh my God, this dude's a fucking lunatic. I just got into this course to learn how to fucking lead source and close clients. And this dude's talking about like deep trauma work and stuff like that. But seriously, it's going to reflect in the world of outer. You even see it, like I even see it. And I especially see this a lot, in a lot of high level conversations in CPA where, as I said, sometimes things will be unbalanced. A person's world, the outer, their external world, will be outweighed, right? It'll be like almost when you're too like, some people are too like chest dominant, or they're too tricep dominant, or bicep, like when there's something where there's a disbalance, right? In the world of external, but the world of internal, they haven't done much work. And that's why I even see a lot of times when they hire, team members, or when they bring on full-time employees, once they scale their agency up, these people treat them like shit. And then the next person treats them like shit too. And in my mind, I'm like, how did you manage to find 2 in a row that both treat you like shit? And it's because of the world of the inner. It's because they keep playing these traumas and these loops, right? And a lot of times they don't stick up for themselves because potentially past traumas. Or, even little things like their sales are affected because, a lot of times people have traumas with their parents, and that reflects in the world of the outer, right? And by the way, and I want to always give you examples, and I'm going to talk to you guys about this stuff, and I'm going to use my journey as a way to show you. I even had this issue, right? I think as many of you guys know, my biological father was an alcoholic, abusive. I met him once when I was 8, briefly. And my stepdad was a real sadistic man. He was the nastiest person I've ever met in my life. About as close to evil as it gets. And, I had a lot of trauma from my childhood growing up. Like, at least I always joke, like, at least my biological father, like, alcoholic, abusive, like, bad man, but like, at least he didn't, my mom left him, while she was pregnant. Because I guess she could take the, all the black and blue bruising when it was just her, but when she had a baby on board, when she was taking care of two people, I guess that was really the switch she needed. But my point is, like, my biological father, that never really affected me. Whereas my stepdad, there's a lot of trauma there. So I even noticed that in sales calls, up until probably a couple years ago. I noticed that males, right? Because, most of the time it's always funny. People have like mommy issues or daddy issues. I always sort of seeked out the validation of older men, and guess who I was mainly speaking to when I was starting up my agency? Older men. And I found myself doing certain things in sales calls, not commanding the way that I would have wanted to because of that reason. And, this is getting intensely personal, but I really want to relay that to, so for you, you can start to think, you go, hey, why is it that I can't hold frame in a sales call? Why is it that, when I get a contractor, they just don't really deliver? And by the way, holding frame in a sales call It may also just be an anomaly. Don't let yourself have one sales call where you don't hold frame with an absolute dickhead and be like, oh man, this daddy issues. It doesn't need to go that deep. Or you could have just one bad apple who's a contractor, and that isn't a reflection on you. It's just, if you keep attracting these things again and again into your life, you gotta ask yourself why. Right? And as I said, you need to prepare the vessel. Otherwise, life will keep presenting these lessons to you again and again and again. And by the way, life keeps presenting these lessons to you until you learn. And until you learn, it's going to keep presenting these lessons to you, right? And it's just going to keep going on and on and on. And ladies and gentlemen, you will notice a lot of men and women will do things to mask their core, right? And you'll find this a lot of times, even billionaires are extremely broken on the inside, right? And so they use all this money and success as a mask for who they really are. As you go along your journey, and no other business program is going to tell you this, right? You have to stay acutely aware of it, because it will always come back to bite you in the ass, right? And this kind of goes on to another topic that I want to cover, which is, humans, we always regress to the mean. In your mind, you're always thinking about you're the highest version of yourself. Most of the time, we're not really the highest version of ourselves. Yes, we have some moment where we have this external inspiration or motivation that turbocharges us, but that's, it's very seldom, right? As humans, we don't live in our ideal 90% of the time, right? We live in our hygiene standards, right? We live in the area and the zone of what we think is dipping below is unacceptable. As I said, that's why humans regress to the mean. And that's why you really need to work on those hygiene standards. And this is something we're going to talk about later on in phase 2. Now, the other thing to really keep in mind is everything in life is also partially to do with luck and timing. And I've said this, there are people in this program who are going to go from 0 to 10K a month in 30 days that don't deserve it. And there's people who are going to, literally work their ass off for a year. And, for them, it takes 18 months to get to 10K, right? And they probably deserve it 10 times more than the other person. And as I said, this is just the life we live in, right? Luck and timing does have a lot to play with it. But the thing is, when you prepare the energetic field and the quantum reality presents an opportunity to you, are you going to take it or are you going to squander it? Because a lot of people, because they have not done the internal work, they see an opportunity and they don't believe they're that person. And we're going to dive really deep into this very, very soon in a module. But they see a opportunity presented to them and they won't take it, right? And it's funny. I did so much internal work, but I even realized this in 2017. There was a lot of really good leads that I should have followed up with. I actually spotted this. Actually, one of my friends mentioned this to me because we were on holiday, and he was sitting across from me as I was taking a bunch of sales calls. And he asked later at lunch, like, "Did you follow up with them?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Why?" Like, you told him you'd send them this thing across right after the sales call, and I didn't. And for me, I think at that point I had gone to a good point with my agency, but I still didn't. This is when I was doing like 15K a month. I still didn't view myself at that 30, 40, 50K level, right? So even at that stage, I still had like an idea of what I was able to accomplish. And maybe I had this ideal version of myself doing 30, 40K a month in my agency, but really my hygiene standard was 15. Now, if I dropped below 15, if I dropped to 5 or 8, I would freak out. I would have sent that document over straight away after the sales call and all that stuff. But because I was kind of at my mean, right? The point in which the version of myself that I thought I was worth, and I wasn't, going below that, but the idea of going up didn't really appeal to me that much either. So as I said, luck and timing are part of it. And when the universe, because as I said, every single person gets that bit of luck from the universe or gets that perfect timing. And when the universe presents itself to you, which by the way might happen next week or it may happen in 2 years from now, but we all have that, we've all had that feeling in our life where we're like, wow, something's working for us. And that's actually the quantum field. And, we'll get into that a little bit later down the line. But that feeling where like there's something, we feel like as though we have a little turbocharge that day. Well, when that happens, are you going to squander it or are you going to make the most of it? Okay. And that's why this work, and I know I honestly, I feel frustrated for you guys. I sound like a broken record here, but that's why this work is so important, to make sure that we don't squander it. Now, ladies and gents, let's talk about the different seasons of life. Now, the first season, and this is something I coined a little while ago, and it just kind of spread like wildfire, is monk mode. Now, this season of life is summarized by cutting out all the distractions, quietening the noise, and really getting realigned. and we'll be going into detail on how to do this coming up shortly. Now, the next one is warrior mode. Now, this is just about getting it fucking done. White knuckled, pull up your boots approach. And in this phase, it's about being incredibly dialed in physically so you can just focus on maximum output with your business. And next up, we have wizard mode. Now, this is a season of life where it's about using power, not force. It's about taking a step back and evaluating the ROI of everything you're doing and thinking super high level about your business and your life. Now, this is a big focus inside of CPA, but because we're inside of Agency Navigator right now, we're really trying to get you to $10,000 per month. And in order to do that, guys, the roadmap is 100% laid out for you already anyways, right? So you don't really need to get into this wizard mode because you guys know what to do because I'm giving you step A to Z. Now, as we near towards the end of this module, for those of you guys who have been sort of in contact with this level of thinking, this phase will be transformative for you. Now, for those of you guys who have never sort of, dived into the sort of content that we're talking about here, this phase will be life-changing. You will fundamentally be a different person after this phase. Now, for today's action step, I want you to go to the group, congratulate someone on a client debrief, and celebrate with them. Now, ladies and gents, I've said this before, but this is so important because when the time comes where you do your first debrief, right, or you do maybe even your 8th debrief, just remember that in this life, you get what you give, right? So really congratulate someone, read their debrief, also learn as much as you can from them. That's why we have the debriefs, and that's why we spent insane amounts of money building this platform and the R&D costs to give the functionality to make all of this stuff happen. So read the debrief, take as much as you can from it, learn as much as you can from them, and then give them a big fat congratulations, right? Because when you sign your first client, or maybe you've already signed 10, 15 clients and you get your next client, man, it's such a great feeling when you can share with the community. And not only that, read all the amazing messages, all the support. And although your cup shall already be filled, let that give you an extra boost of energy and boost of surge, knowing that you got all these people who genuinely care about your success. So ladies and gents, that's about it for today's module, and I will see you in the next one.